Oracle Smith, Texas real estate broker, and I'm so excited to present to you HomeStory. Today we're going to hang out with Bim, see how she's transformed her townhouse into a home. Come with me. Hey Oracle, welcome to my home. Ladies! With both of you today. Thank you for sharing your home story, Bim.
I'm so happy to. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yes, this is very special because this is the first home story that we're sharing. I was blessed to be your real estate agent during your process.
The best agent, yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Done. Okay.
We saw that. What? Let me stop and take my flowers. I'm gonna stop. Literally take my flowers.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you so much for the compliment. But this is about you. Like, we want to learn about what you experienced. Kayla, you were a big part of this.
Yeah.
And so I want to just, first of all, like, let's introduce everybody to who you are, and then we'll get into your story.
Okay.
Awesome. So who has Bim?
Gosh, what a big question. A couple of things. One, I'm a daughter.
Yes.
I'm a sister. I am a Dalasite by way of Ethiopia. So that's like a big part of my story. I work in the nonprofit sector. I'm a small business owner, hence the flowers. And I'm just invested. I'm a person just super invested in my community, I think I'd probably say.
Yeah.
Community leader. I mean, like, dope,
something like
traveling.
Okay, yes, I am a major traveler.
Yeah.
I bought a house and then I traveled. That's what happened. Like, I spent more days out of my home than I did in my home. So
True.
anytime I can collect a stamp, I'm on it. You're right.
Absolutely. Now we're going to talk about the process of getting to this space, right?
Yeah.
And I know, Kayla, you are here for the interview because you have a lot to do with how Bim was able to find the property, choose the property. You know, it's like a community feels, right?
Yes.
It's not just having the right real estate agent, it's also having the right people around you.
Right.
Yeah, from many years before.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you start your home buying journey before your home buying journey.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing I would probably start with. So I first learned about buying a house at 24 at like a home buying seminar, actually with Oracle. They're another organization. Shout out to the Urban.
We've been at this for a long time.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and just dispel this. I always grew up thinking you buy a house when you get married, you have two incomes, and that's when you get your dream home.
Right. And that's the story.
Yes.
Like, it's like, that's the home story that everybody thinks is supposed to happen, and it can kind of keep you from investing.
100%. So I didn't know all the things about like equity or whatever, because that's all I had seen.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, oh, if I ever buy a house, I hope she helps me. And it was just a lot of new information. And then a couple years after that, and then
I mean, you never know this what people are thinking.
Yeah.
So it's like really flattering.
I just remember being blown away because it was things that wasn't shared, you know what I mean, per se to me.
Yeah.
And then maybe a couple years after that, I had met Kayla, maybe like one or two, and she had also a beautiful townhouse, except hers is like this gorgeous 3-story. And I remember being there and like, whoa, here's this friend, and she's beautiful, and she's single at the time, and
Flowers.
like all the things, and like just on it, right? Like really, okay, like she'll have to do her own story trail, but you know, just I just remember admiring how she went about it, the things that she was so financially savvy, told me about how she saved, how she decorated, and I just being like, whoa, I didn't know that was possible for us.
Right. Like, I want to do that. Someone's doing that. It must be possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And I was like, okay, so, and maybe 4 or 5 years had passed after that, and there were things that I had learned along the way from being close to someone else who was a young woman, a young Black woman who had bought her own home. And I didn't realize it, but I was saving that information, and I was more knowledgeable, more prepared, more ready.
Like finding that courage. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so I went to a seminar, and I know, okay, I gotta have a good agent, and I'm gonna need, I'd love to
Down
work with her.
payment and that.
Yes. Still, like, where's my husband? Waiting for that moment of being like,
Bring the money.
bring the money, all those things. But then you meet Kayla, and you see, okay, here's someone who did it
So different.
completely different, I feel this vibe too, right? And
Yeah.
I'm learning, and so there's courage and money and all those things building over the course of what you said, 5 years?
Yeah, must have been at least 4 or 5 years since then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So possibility.
Yeah.
That's like what
Key.
a very different
Education, possibility.
Yeah.
And then probably my parents for sure were trying to model that, but the final touch was my brother. So my older brother is in the real estate space in another city, and he was just like, "This is the time. Like, you know, what are you doing? Don't get another, don't renew." And at that point, I had actually renewed a lease for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Oh, wow.
I had no plans to buy a house that year at all.
A whole year renewal?
Yeah, whole year renewal.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of that voice that it would settle. And you guys remember what that was like. This was like a deep pandemic. The housing market was insane. And I was like, I'm not ready to buy a house this year, maybe next year. So
But the interest rates were great. So money was cheap.
That part.
And I think that's why your brother was saying what he was saying to you about right now is the time, because when the money is cheap, you got to get into this market.
Right, but I didn't know that, right? Which is like goes back to the whole community part, is that everyone's giving you a different set of knowledge and experience, a different set of eyes. I'm not in that space, so I was just like, meet me home. Exactly. I was just thinking that I'm personally not ready, but I was ready. I was actually been ready.
Yes.
And that there were moments of readiness along the way.
Yes.
And I just needed to capitalize on that moment, and all these people were cheering in my corner to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know you were back in Dallas. So I had that little voice, oh, maybe I would love to, but I was like, she's not here.
Yeah.
So I was starting to look for another real estate agent or just trying to find that connection until I ran into you randomly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Kayla and I had met since then, and we were working together as well. You were looking for an investment property. And did not know that you were friends.
Really good friends. Yeah. So when she mentions it, I was like, oh, she's back in Dallas?
Yeah. Kayla, tell me like your experience of like really getting Bim on board. I'm sure somewhere you plugged into that conversation from her brother.
I remember, so she was in visiting her family, and I remember when after her brother had kind of given her this aha moment, she called me, and we were really working through it, because I was like, I really think she's ready, but she has to know that she's ready. And so we were going through, okay, well, let's see, what are the paths, right? If they let you out of this lease, like she said, okay, God, this is the way you're supposed to go. If they don't, maybe this is, you're supposed to take this new lease. So it was really like
step by step.
It was very emotional.
Why is it important to you that your friends buy homes? Like, why is this like so?
I take it personally.
Well, serious.
It changed. I feel like it changed my life, right? Like I always knew that I wanted to own a home regardless of my marital status, right? And so for me, it was like once I did that, I truly saw all of the opportunities that open up, right? You have something that you can call your own. You can leverage it to do other things. It's just a great thing to have, and why not when you're spending that much on rental? It doesn't make sense not to do it. And so that experience for me was so positive, and I'm just so passionate about like spaces and people having their own space to dwell in, that it's just one of those things where I'm like, what do you need? Let's work this through. I've got a lender that you go to. I got Oracle. I got who do you need, right?
She makes it hard to say no.
I just started asking questions like to people in my life, even if they were married, just like, what does this look like for you, and what does home ownership mean, right? Like just what does it even mean? Because sometimes it can be something that's this far off thing that people think it is, and it's not. And so just being able to get those questions answered, I got my confidence, and that grew and grew. And then I've just always been like
willing to share. And is it because you notice in our community that we need someone to say it? Since you've been a homeowner, now that you bought a home, have you been pulled into that whirlwind of like constantly sharing your story with others?
Absolutely. My story, tips, tools, resources, all the people that I used, all the things I learned. It's a tough journey, right? And it is, for most of us, the largest investment we will make, right? Maybe some other people got other investments, but so you want to get it right. You're putting so much on the line. And I think that the role of an advisor, a cheerleader, a friend is as critical, right? Because it's an emotional process. It's a deliberate process. So I've had the chance to encourage plenty of friends, point them in the right direction, cut their journeys in half, right? Which is what people did for me. And so I take the role of community in the home buying process way much more seriously, particularly as we think about home ownership. In my line of work, we talk about this all the time, being like the largest tool or the most effective tool you can use to close that
wealth gap.
the wealth gap, right? So building equity is sometimes survival, it's sometimes legacy, it's what you leave behind, it's what you leverage. And so we need those kinds of assets to go around in our communities and to protect them and to set them up the right way. And so it's a game changer. And so anytime I can help someone else do that, I absolutely want to pay it forward.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Because when you said, who taught you, I'm like, I guess it technically didn't have like a home buying companion person. So I just became what I needed.
Yeah.
And then now she's becoming what other people need. And like, it's going to continue. That's amazing.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly. It's important to have a good real estate team, but I think it's even more important to have what you have, right? And to be able to duplicate that in the community, because it is about knowing that wealth is available, especially living in Dallas Fort Worth, for us through this vehicle. Right.
And then renting is just so expensive right now.
And it's
right?
very
and it's
expensive.
climbing and it's unavailable.
Yep.
And so do you want to be in a situation where it's constantly fluctuating or be set as well?
Well, I think one of the things that scare people about buying a home is the actual process, right? And so now that we've gotten you in the seat of I'm going to buy a home, the other part that people don't know what to do, and why I'm so glad that you're sharing not just your home with us and what you've done with it, but your actual story, right? Not just the story of why you bought a house, but your actual story. So I hope everybody experiences and realizes the wealth of information that's about to be dropped right now. Gems, right? Because we're gonna get the real experience that Bim has had, and even hopefully Kayla can drop some nuggets for us too, because she's been in this game a little bit, right?
A couple times now.
So once we got together, all the synergy happened, the synchronicity happened, you traveled. Right? Like,
Let's talk about we met at a coffee shop. Oracle walked me through what the process could look like, and I was like, "Wow, that was a lot."
It was 2 hours, right?
Yeah. I already have a trip planned. I'll see you in a month.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And if I can pause there, like, I really feel the beauty of that consultation is key. Right? Yeah. One of the things that I do differently in my business is sit down with first-time home buyers and map it out. So it's almost like you feel like you went through it already once, and you've been hit by taxes and hit by the fees and hit by the interest rates and hit by how you're going to be judged and hit by what you're going to have to bring in one full time to even know if your energy can handle it, if your wallet can handle it, right? So we did that, which I feel gave you enough to take a trip and have all you need to think about this process. Would you agree with that?
100%. So my friends joke that I'm a processor. It's facts.
Yeah, she took lots of notes.
I did.
I know she did. Okay, I know she did.
I may not have asked all the questions, but I noted them. And then I sat with it, throughout the month, right? I processed that information piece by piece in a way that was best for me. So I think that's the other style. How do you consume information, right?
Yes.
And I love more information, right? I can never have enough, and then I want to make my decision. So that was the perfect setup for me. It was like, I'm going to overload you with what it will feel like, and so gave me that time. And so when we got back together, I was prepared. I had thought about the full cycle. I knew maybe some of the details had changed just slightly, but for the most part, I knew how things would shake out. So I needed that, and if that's how you are, think about that. I think that's an important part of choosing who you work with. What is that style of information? How do they relay that to you? Do you need to tell them to slow down or speed it up, right? Are you decisive or not decisive? This home buying process is, as much as it is buying a home and knowing a home, it is about knowing yourself.
That part.
And there was some rude awakening moments for me where I was like, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I didn't know.
Bleep it out.
It's YouTube.
Yeah.
It's my show. We can move forward, right? So, I mean, you flowed beautifully through your process from the beginning to end. And so I want to break it down a little bit, right? So let's start with, and Kayla, you came with us on a few tours, right? Like we were here, we found the house. So let's break down just the touring process. We actually didn't do very much touring at all.
At all. We didn't look at many homes. I think we might have looked at like 6 or 7. And at that time, we had only looked at like 3 or 4.
Yes.
We looked at a couple more afterwards. We'll talk about that later.
Service.
Right. It was amazing. You gotta be sure. Right. But yeah, we hadn't looked at many, but I had a price range. And what I didn't know either is thinking about the price range. And I thought the higher I went, that it was actually going to affect my monthly payment, and it wasn't. So that's like not by much at all, right?
360 months is a long time to break up a dollar.
It is, and so we started in a narrower budget than what I could actually afford. I could afford a lot more than what I was looking for, but I didn't want to get into a house I could afford.
Right.
I wanted it to be well within my means.
And if we can pause there and just educate a piece, right? So the debt to income ratio, that was one of the things we talked about when we first began your process, and how you could spend up to about half of your monthly gross income on a property.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily want to spend up to half of your monthly gross income because you want to be able to live.
Yeah.
Right? And so if the mortgage company says, hey, spend 50% of your income on debts, don't listen to those guys, right? You look at your own budget and decide what you can leverage for your home versus your car, your student loans, and your credit cards, any other obligations that you have. And you want to maybe max out at that 35-40%, especially on your first home. You want to leave some room for savings, getting to know what it really means to be.
That she got a whole travel budget.
That part, right? So I mean, this isn't necessarily a financial advice talk, but I do think that even though you were above your price point in your mind, you still stay within your means when it comes to your actual financial plan for yourself. We looked at older homes that were remodeled in one price point, right? And pre-owned neighborhoods, older piping, older AC, older. And then we opened your price point up just a bit, just a little uncomfortable, right? Just slightly uncomfortable. But we got 2-year-old home in that space, which means warranties and all the other things that come from you having not only a move-in ready home, because the pre-owns were move-in ready.
It was.
But having a brand new home like behind the walls as well.
No, and that was super important because if y'all remember, so a lot of the houses I was going and I was like, okay, I'm not excited. But then there was the house. And the house was like me in the house and the way it was set up. And we, I wanted that house. But it went into a cash bidding war. And my parents would, thank God for them because they had a lot of wisdom, were like, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come down the line, and you are not ready in your first house to do this solo. And so we moved away from that.
Absolutely.
But that was the house that got me in the game.
Correct.
So there will be a house, I think, maybe that's something to look for, that gets you in the game, that actually gets you interested, that makes you like, okay, actually I can do this. I can find something. It was the turning point, and it gave me a little bit more hope and possibility.
And it allowed us to like actually see the house together because Kayla was there. Like Kayla was down this entire.
She was. It was down the street from her too, and she loved it.
Where y'all at? So touring with us is always fun. Right? Make it fun. But the beautiful thing as well is that we got to write an offer, right? So you got to see what it looked like and felt like to have to compete. You got to see all the different terms that you would be having to agree to, what negotiation opportunities that you'd have, and things that you have to give up to win a house, right?
Yeah, and that was also an eye-opener. Probably the most profound thing I thought, and I learned from that, is I am way more of a risk taker and I'm way more courageous than I thought I am. Because I was like, yeah, let's do it. Okay, they're asking for this much. Okay, put it. Like, I'll find this. And she was like, oh, you're ready to gamble. After
that right, and that pass, we were right back at it
the next day.
And we seen some things and we didn't like some things. We had some cancels. then all of a sudden, just a little extra search. Here
Yeah.
we are. We came to this place.
Immediately felt connected. I was like, it was modern. It had these gorgeous tall ceilings and windows, and I'm a very much natural light person. And on the wall was a gallery of flowers. It was like 12 different types of flowers, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. The kitchen was honestly the kitchen of my dreams. It was open. It was white. It was had the herringbone backsplash.
The lighting,
cabinets.
I was like, this is a
Uppers and lowers, right?
It was pristine, and my mother is a wonderful cook and had her own catering business for years. Me, on the other hand, reminded me of like growing up because my mom always cooked. She always gathered people. She always invited, hosted people. It was warm. Like my house was. There was people would joke there was never a stranger in our house, right? Because everyone, like around the holidays, whatever. So it made me feel like that. It was reminiscent for me. And I said, oh, I would love to be here. And immediately I could see some things I want to do in the house if I could. And so it just connected. And it was, maybe we'll get into this later, but it was just the right size. And I didn't know that there was such a thing as like too much home. That's a thing. Okay. And this wasn't that. It was like spacey. It was beautiful. All the places that needed to be big, that needed to be unique, or all that. And so it worked. It felt like a glove.
They put the square footage where it really belongs, right? And they left out the stuff that was unnecessary, and it really blended with your, I'm not married yet, however, you can come visit, I got 2 sinks. You know what I mean? Like,
And two.
Right, a walk-in closet for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
For you. This is not a condo just for one person. There is space and room to grow.
And I have hosted many people here already. Yeah, get to have friends from out of town and family. So yeah, it was big.
It's a beautiful space.
Reiterating what you all talked about, when it comes to money, I think our community is just so taken aback and we're so intimidated, and we don't have to be. We really don't have to be. So We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers is one of my favorite books, written by a Black woman who talks about this concept of like being really, really, really poor, right? Coming from poverty and changing your mindset, what is actually needed step by step to do that. And so I would say definitely check out that book, and then start to open up your mail. I think one of those things is like when you get a bill and you're just like, I'm gonna just push this to the side, right? I used to do that. I used to do that, and now I'm like, let's see what this is, right? You get something from an IRS, it's okay, open it up. You have to kind of think about, okay, what is reality? And then how can I turn this to be like, okay, I can plan this out. That means next year I'll be able to save more. I'll be able to do this, right? Going on mint.com is one of my.
I love mint.com.
Girl, listen, you can calculate your net worth today. You add all of your investment accounts, you add all of your 401ks, you add all of your income, your loans, your assets, everything, and it literally will spit out an amount for you to say, this is how much cash you have, this is how much credit you owe, this is your net worth. Seeing that number is humbling.
Yes. And it's a free platform, right? It allows you to put your budgets in, and so you actually can watch your spending. So not only are you watching your wealth building, but you're also watching your spending and your credit all in one place.
All in one place. Literally one dashboard has all of it.
We need a check.
Hey, listen, we'll be the ambassadors.
We are ambassadors.
Absolutely. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I saw a thing just on Instagram, like maybe a week or two ago, that said if you saved $26 a day, it adds up to be about $10,000 a year. I'm blown away by that. $26. That means like maybe I don't buy a coffee, or maybe I find a way to earn an extra 20 by driving Uber, right? Like there is nothing wrong with however we need to do to get that little bit of money to close that gap, to invest in whatever we want. But that was, I love when things break it down for me like that, because that makes it much more tangible. Like, oh, I don't need to like go save thousands more a month, just an extra 26 a day. Right.
And I'm a fan of like, all I have to do is make $26. Like a lot of the time I feel like we sacrifice way too much. Like we're already sacrificing most of the time in the Black community. And so for me, I'm like, okay, what
Let's make
money
more. let's do more.
That part.
Right. Instead of
Right.
looking and seeing
Right.
a lack and, oh, buying a house is going to bring me into lack.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
take out of my pocket. No, buying a house is going to motivate me into more action
Yep.
so that I can have the house and these other things.
And the
because-
lifestyle that you deserve. Like,
Exactly.
you really deserve that lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I hear you saying like mature financially, right? To
Yeah.
actually take a mature, emotionally intelligent look at your finances
Right.
so homeownership can even be possible for
Yes,
you,
yes.
right?
And just when you think about money, think about it in a more positive way, which I think we were talking about earlier. Yeah, I think that's really important. And one thing I don't think you touched on was you kind of did that when you like decided to make more, right? You were like, I'm going to start Blooms by Bim. And I'm going to do this and this. And it literally made a huge difference in kind of your approach to your down payment, things like that. Yeah.
Well, this was beautiful. You did have one other tip earlier. I don't know if you got back to say it again, but you were saying tip number 1 was to hire Oracle, and number 2 was,
Hire Oracle.
and then 3 was
Hire Oracle.
Okay, those are my tips.
I second that.
Right. I mean, where else are you going to get a whole team, right? And the knowledge that you as a realtor have,
Yeah.
it blows my mind. And that to me is amazing for a first time homeowner, and then me forever. Like I'm a forever client of yours just because you close your homes, right? Where others are trying to figure it out and doing multiple, offers. What you write up gets accepted, right? And so that's one of those things where I'm like, oh no, here's the proof. She makes me feel good about the process. Like it's a real holistic look at real estate, and you're amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
and it
much.
feels dreamy. And
Yeah.
for me to like have met and connected with you, I told you, like being in that room at 24 and being like, one day when I buy a house, I hope she'll be the person. And now we're sitting in
Full
my
circle.
a year in. So that feels pretty special.
I love that. I love being a part of a story, period, because I think life is that, right?
Yeah.
Like we are writing so many books with what we live every single day, right? Our lives are beautiful stories, and this is such a big part, right? I am blessed to be a real estate broker in this market. I'm blessed to be able to serve clients that are as beautiful as you ladies. And I'm blessed to even be able to share your processes because you've been so open with your home, open with your story, open with your time. And I know for a fact that this is a blessed opportunity as well. There will be so many people impacted by us getting together today to talk about not only your future, right, but take it back a year and really look at your past and what you've gone through to get here. So I look forward to supporting you in your first investment property because you're buying more real estate, right? Like we will find a way to get her in our investment
We
conversations.
sure will.
Right?
Y'all come save me, okay? They're about to bring back my indecisiveness. Yeah.
We'll walk through it with you.
Okay.
Absolutely. But yeah, if there's any questions that you have about this process, please check all the information at the bottom of this video and reach out to us at CocoResidential Group. Thank you so much for watching Bim's Home Story.
Yay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Y'all.